In the 1980s, supercar didn't just mean speed, it sparked a global arms race between three icons. The Ferrari F40 shattered limits with a twin-turbo V8 and a ruthless, stripped-down form to mark Ferrari's 40th anniversary. The Porsche 959 rewrote the rulebook with all-wheel drive, twin turbos, and 450 horsepower, yet fewer than 300 ever escaped tight regulations. And the Lamborghini Countach 5000 QV, all angles and scissor doors, didn't just look outrageous, its V12 roar defined the decade's dreams. But why did these machines become legends? And what risks pushed them beyond the reach of ordinary cars? The stakes weren't just speed records, they were legacy, regulation, and engineering pride. Here's how supercar icons of the 80s changed what the world thought was possible. Nicola Materazzi's engineering mandate for the Ferrari F40 began with a single, uncompromising target: weight. The factory set the bar at 1,100 kilograms, a figure that would demand a radical departure from traditional steel and aluminum. Materazzi turned to advanced composites, specifying a layup of Kevlar and carbon fiber for the body panels, floor, and even parts of the interior. This was no marketing exercise. Every panel was hand-laid and bonded, not for show, but to wring out every possible gram. The doors, hood, and rear clamshell were razor-thin, their woven patterns visible beneath the paint. Even the side and rear windows were Lexan, a polycarbonate lighter than glass, chosen despite the heat and noise it let in. Underneath, the chassis used aluminum in place of heavier steel for key structural points. The result was a curb weight that hovered right around the 1,100 kilogram mark, far lighter than rivals packed with luxury or electronic aids. This obsessive approach to mass paid off the moment the engine fired. The F40's heart was a 2.9-liter 90-degree V8, force-fed by twin IHI turbochargers. Materazzi had insisted on a turbocharged V8 over heavier options, aiming for both power and responsiveness. The engine produced 478 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, with a torque peak of 577 Newton-meters. Turbo lag was present, but once the boost arrived, acceleration was explosive. The powertrain layout, mid-mounted and longitudinal, kept mass centered and low, sharpening the car's reflexes. Turbo plumbing was a work of packaging art. Each bank of 4 cylinders fed its own turbo, with intercoolers mounted just behind the doors to chill the intake charge. The plumbing snaked through the engine bay, prioritizing the shortest, most direct routes. The exhaust system, stripped of unnecessary baffling, vented heat and sound with minimal restriction. Pirelli supplied bespoke tires, engineered to handle both the immense power and the F40's featherweight frame. On paper, the performance figures seemed almost unreal for the late 1980s. 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, a top speed just over 200 miles per hour. But every number traced back to the same philosophy: eliminate mass, amplify response, and let the engine's violence speak for itself. Materazzi's decisions, from composite contracts to turbo sizing, turned the F40 into a machine that delivered its statistics not just in magazine tests, but in the raw, physical sensation of speed. Inside the Ferrari F40, every surface serves a single purpose: to connect the driver with the car's raw mechanical heart. The doors close with a thin, metallic sound, lighter than expected. There's no carpet, only exposed composite weave underfoot. The dashboard is a simple slab, punctuated by analog gauges and a few essential switches. Air conditioning is an afterthought, insulation nearly non-existent. Heat from the engine seeps through the bulkhead. The Lexan side windows, chosen to save weight, rattle in their tracks and offer only a small sliding panel for ventilation. Every sound, stones pinging the undertray, the turbos spooling, the V8's harsh idle, reaches the cabin unfiltered. The seats are thin, fixed-back buckets, upholstered in red cloth, bolted almost directly to the floor. There's no adjustment beyond sliding them forward or back. The steering wheel is small, rimmed in suede, and sits upright, ready for serious work. There's no power assistance. At low speeds, the steering feels heavy but alive, transmitting every ripple and imperfection in the road. As speed builds, the weight in the wheel increases, demanding attention and rewarding precision. The pedals are close together, stiff in their action, requiring real effort to operate smoothly. Each gear change through the open metal gate is mechanical and deliberate, with a satisfying click as the lever finds its slot. Nothing in the F40's cabin was added for comfort or style. The Spartan interior, bare composites, minimal padding, purposeful controls, was a direct result of the car's obsession with weight. This was not a place for luxury, but for focus. The noise, the heat, and the vibration are constant reminders that the car was built for speed, not ease. Exclusivity is woven into every detail. Around 400 F40s were produced between 1987 and 1992, each hand-assembled in Maranello. No two cars are exactly alike, with subtle differences betraying the human touch behind every panel and seam. Enzo Ferrari personally approved the project, overseeing its progress until his death in 1988. For many, the F40 stands as the last Ferrari to bear his direct influence, a living artifact of his era, uncompromising and unfiltered. To drive it is to experience not just performance, but a philosophy. Nothing between you, the machine, and the road. Porsche's answer to the supercar arms race came not from brute force, but from the relentless application of racing technology to the road. At the heart of the 959's performance was its sequential twin-turbo system, a direct inheritance from the Group B rally prototypes that never made it to the starting grid. Instead of simply bolting on two turbos for headline power, the Weissach engineering team, led by Helmuth Bott, developed a system that staged boost delivery with remarkable precision. The first smaller turbo came online at low RPM, providing immediate response and minimizing lag, while the second, larger turbocharger, engaged as revs climbed, unleashing the full 450 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. This careful phasing allowed the 2.85-liter flat six to deliver torque smoothly across the rev range. A rarity among turbocharged engines of the era, but the 959's real breakthrough was in how it put that power to the ground. The Porsche Steuerkupplung, or PSK, was the world's most advanced all-wheel drive system when it debuted. Instead of a fixed torque split, the PSK used electronic controls and hydraulic clutches to constantly adapt power delivery. Under normal driving, 60% of torque went to the rear wheels, preserving the classic Porsche feel. Accelerate hard and the system could send up to 80% rearward, maximizing traction. On slippery surfaces, the split could shift toward 50-50, giving the car stability and grip that no rear-drive rival could match. The control algorithm monitored wheel speed, throttle position, and yaw, adjusting torque distribution in milliseconds, an approach years ahead of its time. The 959's adaptability extended to its suspension. An electro-hydraulic system allowed drivers to raise or lower the ride height at the touch of a button, a feature born from the car's rally ambitions. At speed, the body hunkered down for better aerodynamics. On rough roads, it lifted to clear obstacles. The suspension also adjusted damping rates on the fly, balancing comfort with the demands of high-speed cornering. Every element of the 959's architecture was about integration. Aluminum body panels and composite sections kept weight in check, but it was the interplay of turbo sequencing, adaptive drivetrain, and chassis electronics that set the car apart. The result? A supercar that could top 197 miles per hour, yet remain stable and confidence-inspiring in conditions that would have left its contemporaries searching for grip. Where the F40 chased purity through minimalism, the 959 achieved control and speed by turning racing technology into a usable, everyday reality. Confidence came standard in the Porsche 959, not as bravado, but as a quiet assurance built into every system. On the road, the car felt planted in ways that defied its era. The all-wheel drive system worked behind the scenes, smoothing out rough pavement, offering grip even when the weather turned. Drivers described a sense of calm at high speed, a rare quality among supercars of the 1980s, when most demanded vigilance and quick reflexes. The 959 inspired trust, whether threading through mountain switchbacks or cruising at triple-digit speeds on the Autobahn. The steering was light but precise, the chassis balanced and forgiving. Even on wet roads, the car responded with composure, letting drivers push harder and farther than they would have dared in rivals. Yet for all its technical mastery, the 959 was almost invisible on American roads. Porsche built just 292 examples between 1986 and 1989, and few ever reached the United States. Federal regulations stood in the way. The 959 was never crash-tested to U.S. standards. Porsche refused to destroy 4 cars for certification, and the cost of re-engineering emissions and safety systems was prohibitive. Customs impounded early imports, leaving them stranded in warehouses for years. For collectors, the car became an object of obsession and frustration. Bill Gates famously bought a 959 and waited more than a decade before he could legally take delivery. Racing driver Bruce Canepa joined the cause, lobbying lawmakers and regulators to reconsider the rules. Their efforts paid off in 1999, when Congress passed the show or display exemption. This new law allowed cars of historical or technological significance to be imported and driven, albeit with strict mileage limits. Suddenly, the 959 was no longer just a forbidden fruit. It was a prize for those willing to navigate the maze of paperwork and regulation. The scarcity, combined with the car's reputation for technical brilliance, turned the 959 into a legend. Its rarity in the U.S. market only added to its allure, fueling demand among collectors and cementing its status as one of the most coveted supercars of the decade. For those lucky enough to experience it, the 959 delivered not just performance, but a sense of belonging to an exclusive world shaped as much by law and advocacy as by engineering. Marcello Gandini's pen didn't just sketch a car, it sliced through convention. The Lamborghini Countach 5000 QV stands as proof. Every angle of its body was drawn with a ruler and a sense of provocation. The wedge profile is almost impossibly low, the nose barely skimming the ground, the roofline chopped to a height that dares taller drivers to fold themselves inside. Sharp creases run the length of the car, catching light and shadow in a way that turns every parking lot into a stage. The scissor doors are more than a party trick. They're a feat of engineering, hinging upwards on a single axis near the windshield, swinging open like the wings of some mechanical insect. The first time they rise, they announce the Countach's intent. This is not transportation, it's theater. Step closer, and the details reveal a mix of artistry and practicality. Most of the body is fashioned from hand-formed aluminum alloy, while select panels, underbody, sills, spoilers, use fiberglass-reinforced plastic. Everything is mounted to a tubular steel space frame chassis, giving the car both rigidity and the dramatic proportions Gandini demanded. Sink into the cabin, and you're greeted by a driving position that borders on the absurd. The seat is low and reclined, legs stretched out almost flat, steering wheel angled upward. Visibility is an afterthought. Thick pillars and shallow windows frame the world like a letterbox, but none of that matters when the engine fires. Behind the driver sits a 5.2-liter V12, naturally aspirated, with 4 valves per cylinder. It produces 455 horsepower at 7,500 RPM, channeling its power through a 5-speed manual gearbox. The exhaust note is a symphony of mechanical violence. At idle, a deep, uneven rumble. At full throttle, a wailing crescendo that builds as the revs climb. There's no turbo lag, no muted electronics, just an immediate, linear surge of power that feels both refined and savage. The fiberglass and aluminum bodywork doesn't just look dramatic, it helps keep curb weight in check, hovering around 1,400 kilograms. But the car's weight is only a number until the V12 roars to life. The sound fills the cockpit, bouncing off bare metal and leather, vibrating through the seat. The throttle responds with a precision that rewards a steady foot and punishes hesitation. Every gear change brings a fresh wave of noise and acceleration. The Countach 5000 QV isn't about numbers or lap times, it's about the experience. The ritual of opening those doors, the posture forced by the wedge, the engine's operatic howl. Gandini's vision lives in every sense, turning a drive into a spectacle that lingers long after the V12 falls silent. By the mid-1980s, the Lamborghini Countach 5000 QV wasn't just a car, it was a phenomenon. Its wedge-shaped silhouette and scissor doors became visual shorthand for speed, success, and the kind of excess that defined the decade. The Countach didn't need a racing pedigree or technical leap to dominate the cultural landscape. It achieved something rarer: ubiquity. Magazine centerfolds, glossy posters, and calendar spreads gave the car a reach that went far beyond the showroom. The numbers tell one story: about 500 units built between 1985 and 1988. But the real impact was measured in millions of bedrooms and dormitories where its image hung on the wall. MTV helped amplify the Countach's myth. The car appeared in music videos, its angular form reflected in neon lights and city skylines, always in motion or waiting like a prowling animal. Rock stars and actors, names like Rod Stewart, Elton John, and Sylvester Stallone, were photographed sliding behind the wheel or arriving at clubs, the doors slicing upward as if opening onto another reality. In movies and television, the Countach became a prop for fantasy and aspiration, a rolling symbol of what it meant to have made it in the 1980s. The Countach's visual drama was the perfect match for a decade obsessed with style and statement. Its presence on posters wasn't accidental. Publishing companies licensed the image by the tens of thousands, feeding a demand that rivaled any pop star or athlete. The car's bright colors, white, red, yellow, popped off glossy paper, while its stance and proportions seemed to defy gravity. Even those who'd never seen one in person could sketch its outline from memory. For many, owning the poster was as close as they'd ever get, but that didn't blunt the effect. The Countach became a shared dream, a shorthand for ambition and taste. Celebrity ownership only deepened the car's mystique. When a star was photographed with a Countach, it wasn't just about wealth, it was about belonging to a rarefied club. The car's scarcity added to the allure. With production numbers low and price tags high, the Countach was always out of reach for most, but omnipresent in the imagination. Its design, more than any technical detail, became the brand. By the end of the decade, the Countach was more than a supercar. It was the poster child of the 1980s, a cultural artifact as recognizable as any album cover, sneaker, or video game console. Its legend was built not just on what it could do, but on what it made people feel. Staring up at it from the foot of their beds, dreaming of a future shaped like a wedge and unlocked by a pair of scissor doors. Between 1985 and 1992, fewer than 1,200 Ferrari F40s, Porsche 959s, and Lamborghini Countach 5000 QVs were produced. Each car defined a unique vision. The F40's 478 horsepower twin-turbo V8 delivered raw performance. The 959's twin-turbo all-wheel drive set new standards for technology, and the Countach 5000 QV's wedge design and V12 roar made it a global icon. Yet not every detail is public. Full technical files from Ferrari's composite program and Porsche's Group B research remain partly classified. What is clear? These supercars reshaped automotive standards and inspired decades of innovation. Today, their influence is seen in every lightweight chassis, every electronic driving aid, and every bold design that follows. As documented in period production sheets and engineering memos, the 1980s marked a turning point when ambition, technology, and culture collided to create legends whose impact endures.